All right, question for y'all. Did you ever have to pretend to be straight for the sake of people around you?
Me? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And where do you feel like that
like,
stemmed from? Where did that stem from for you, Brandon?
My mother said that she would disown me or kick me out if I were to ever be gay.
So how does your mother feel about you now?
How many books you got?
It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I mean, she doesn't agree with it, but at the end of the day, I guess she's starting to get comfortable because I told her, I said, either you accept who I am or you just, it is what it is. Like, so.
I think I'm gonna
Gotcha.
go 5.
All right. So for you, you said for 10. You said 10 years or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Okay. More than that. So how did your parents take it?
Oh, well, it was so crazy because my mom, she didn't actually have a conversation with me about it. She actually had a conversation with other people. And then it was more so like she felt like I wasn't going to come and talk to her personally. So she was just letting other people know through the grapevine like that she was still loved me, whatever. And then it just came down to a conversation that we had when I was 18 and she was just basically raw with me like, hey, she was like, you got a girlfriend? I was like, no, she was like, you got a boyfriend? I was like, no. She was like, you got a girlfriend? I was like, yeah. Boom, that was just the end of the conversation. Went on about it. It was just never really a conversation until I was 18. Oh, it's my go? Until I was really like 18 and over, to be honest.
You'll take the same test until you pass it type thing, And the people around us, the same thing. You'll be like, it's a different face, but it's the same personality. And wondering like, how do I get back? How did I get in this situation? How do I overcome this? You gotta look at you because you're the common denominator. It's easy to point blame elsewhere, but you gotta look at yourself and be like, all right, I'm the common denominator. Something about me is tolerating this behavior. Something about me is attracting this behavior. So how do I change that? And you can.
Roll me Mac.
Childhood desires, and do you still want them? Okay, so childhood desires. I believe the childhood desire number one was definitely making it as a lead singer of a boy band like New Edition or Jackson 5. So that aspiration, not so much anymore. I mean, I'm okay with a karaoke appearance, something like that. But as far as wanting to have those aspirations of being a lead singer and, just caught up in the fame and glitz and glamour, everything you saw Alvin and Alvin and the Chipmunks try to go after as a kid. I mean, that's essentially what what I was after at one point in time, and just getting caught up in wanting what that was. You know what I mean? I grew up in a time frame where, you know, in Cuba, you had Alvin and the Chipmunks, you had New Kids on the Block, there was New Edition, there was Menudo at one point in time. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of boy bands that wanted to be a part of that, and getting the reaction from the girls and all of that stuff. So it was like, all right, and then of course you got the black boy bands coming around. Now, of course, outside of New Edition, you got the Jodeci, the Guy, the Troop. All of them had an influence on me. I mean, music was constantly played in my house, so those songs, essentially it resonated with me wanting to be in that band. But as far as me wanting to do it now, no, I have no desire for that. I'm okay with just singing in the car, shower, around the house, around people that actually, that sing and whatnot, karaoke, things like that. But no, that desire is no longer there. NBA, making it to the NBA. At one point in time, yeah, I really thought that me being that short, as far as like, NBA, I'm not saying that you're not able to make it, obviously, because Allen Iverson comes from our area, and AI, Bubba can't be but, maybe 5'11" on a good day, 6 even. And, he had heart and handles too. He had handles too, and that's one thing I could never get down. My dad would always tell me, to work on the other, my other hand, because I'm left-handed. But he would tell me to work on my right hand and the coaches and stuff like that. But I just never put forth that effort to get there, And it's one thing of saying you want to make it. There's another thing of actually committing to it. They say the chicken was interested, but the pig was committed. You know what I mean? As far as like, they had to give it all up, everything on that. But that's just an old Les Brown analogy that he likes to use in his inspirational speeches. But I do not wish to still be in the NBA. I'll be honest, I don't like watching the NBA these days. I don't know what it is. It's just maybe because I no longer want to be in it. I don't look up to these guys. They're younger than me, number one. And that's really, I think that's it. You see somebody that's older than you and they're doing something, it seems like it's flashy. I mean, for growing up, for us, it doesn't get any better. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, Chuck Persons, James Worthy, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Kevin Johnson, Larry Johnson. Like, the names are endless. Sean Kemp, Gary Payton. The names are endless as far as like what we grew up on and the influence that it had on us. Of us wanting to be like whatever that player was. Depending on what your game was like. Like for me, I was more of a slasher. So Scottie Pippen was my favorite player. So I wanted to be like Scottie. I would be the one person that would refuse to say that they were a fan of Jordan. Even as a Bulls fan, I was like, yeah, Scottie's my guy. I want a Scottie, I want the Scottie Pippen jersey and all that other shit. But let's be real. Let's be real. Looking back at film, Jordan was that motherfucker. And let me dare say, from his time compared to now, still is. And that's not for any LeBron hater, whatever, Jordan hater. That's not to get into that. But just watch the dominance that man had on the teams that he played, and how they had to strategize against him. As great as Kobe was, he was no Jordan. He wanted to emulate Jordan. And as great as LeBron is, it's not a comparison. You know what I'm saying? That's no knock at how great LeBron is. But I never wanted to, like I said, I don't see myself be making it to the NBA. Not playing for sure. I'm definitely out. I missed my window some time ago. But at one point in time, I really wanted to be in the NBA. Like that was a dream. That really was it. That's the whole point of going outside, playing basketball at your friend's house from sun up to sundown, the dunking on the goal in your room, running against the door, your mom asking what is all that noise down there. Yeah, trying to emulate all the dunks that I saw on this tape that my dad used to have, the Super Slams of the NBA. I used to watch that shit 100 times a day, trying to learn how to dunk. And if you could dunk, you got some kind of praise for it. So it was like, you felt seen, and I wanted that. It's really just wanted to be seen. So that takes me to my next childhood desire. wanting to be, I mean, I didn't know it then, but I can look at it now and say, oh, all I wanted to do was be seen, heard, and loved. And do I still want that now? Yes, I do. I really do still want that. The difference now is that I don't care to get it from everyone else now. My inner child might, but me personally, like in the present moment, being in the present, not living in the past or the future, I want to, I want to make myself feel seen, heard, and loved. I try to hug my wounded inner child as much as I can. And I mean, there's a lot of struggle with that, but that's the beauty of the challenge. And waking up every day, going after yourself, and understanding that it's you versus you every day. No matter what it is. You know, when you wake up in the morning, each day is you versus you. Everybody else is just mirroring something from, something in your life that you hadn't got over, like a challenge, if you will. And it's like seeing people as lessons and what they can do, as far as like you putting yourself in a better position of bettering yourself mentally so that you can face the necessary challenge, and otherwise you're just going to keep repeating it. You'll take the same test until you pass it type thing, and the people around us, the same thing. You'll be like, it's a different face, but it's the same personality, and wondering like, how do I get back? How did I get in this situation? How do I overcome this? You gotta look at you, because you're the common denominator. It's easy to point blame elsewhere, but you gotta look at yourself and be like, all right, I'm the common denominator. Something about me is tolerating this behavior. Something about me is attracting this behavior. So how do I change that? And you can if you want to. You know what I'm saying? Once you put your mind to it and recognize that anything you focus on, you're going to feel. So I say to that point, yeah, do I still want to be seen, heard, and loved? I sure do. The thing is I no longer wish to be seen, heard, and loved by my peers like such. Don't get me wrong, for this platform, it'd be nice to get people to kind of see it. It'd be nice to make a profit off of such. But more importantly, being able to help others use me as an example to heal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't perfect by any means. You know what I mean? I'm just as human as anybody else. I just decided I have a love for like mental health, and I thought it was just cool how everything connected. I really just take it back to School of Life and Psych to Go. That really helped me see things differently and how connected that we are. I would go on YouTube, have maybe like a riff or something with parents or family or some shit like that, and I go on School of Life. I randomly run across these videos and run across Psych to Go, and I'm like, oh, how the hell did they know what happened in my life? So it can't be just me, so it's like, oh, so we're all connected now. So because we're all connected, we're all human, judgment goes out the window at this point, because how can I judge you? If I judge you, I'm judging myself type thing. And so it's cool to learn those skills and seeing how it connects everyone. But nevertheless, yeah, I wanted to be seen, heard, and loved when I was a kid. Now I'm working on making that same kid, that wounded inner child, feel seen, heard, and loved. Why do men struggle to set aside their ego? All right, so why men struggle to set aside their ego, I'll give it from my perspective, right? I won't speak on any other man, but maybe another man can relate to what I'm going to say. The ego protected you at one point in time. And I'm not saying the world isn't challenging for women, but I'll say this, it's definitely challenging for a man. So there's a level of protection, and no one cares about men's struggles. not for real. And that's no knock at anybody watching this, any woman watching this. I just need you to understand, from a societal standpoint, When you see homeless men, most people go right past them. You know, if you saw like a dog, you might try to help the dog. You see a woman and kids, you more than likely might help the woman and the kids. When you see a homeless man, more than likely we tend to overlook them. Now, there's some people that will give to the homeless, you know what I'm saying? And much respect to those people with that heart. But for the most part, you know, if a man is like down on his luck, talking about his feelings, man, nobody gives a fuck about that shit. They might even lose respect for you. So what that ego, depending on how it's being used, was served as a point of protection at one point in time. It gave you confidence to do whatever the task is. I mean, the thing is, we weren't supposed to attach ourselves to the ego. And myself included has certainly had moments where I've attached myself to my ego. And it's just understanding, it's just like this chair. That's it. The ego is the chair. You know, it's holding me up, but I'm not the chair. So it doesn't mean it's not good. You know, it can be useful. You know what I'm saying? Like the ego is very useful. And truth be told, setting aside our, you know, struggling to set aside our ego, it's an attraction for you. Truth be told, that confidence is sexy, baby. Confidence is sexy. Now, anything done excessively can spoil. You know what I'm saying? It taints your view of it. You can too much of anything can be a bad thing. You know, as much as I don't really like to use good and bad, but like too much of something can turn you away from it. So it's like finding that fine line between using your ego and really just remembering to operate in the soul. So like struggling to set aside our egos, especially in conflict, you got to think about where a person comes from. And that's not this, and it's, again, we'll keep it about men because that's what the question begs. But like humans alone, if you come from a background where you never really felt heard, right, you're more than likely not going to fold on what you believe, you know, and the ego, the wounded inner child, will defend its beliefs. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you know who's talking, the ego versus the soul. See, the soul just is. This is my theory, my philosophy on it, is that the soul just is. The ego wishes to defend. Like if I say something about your team or whatever, you're going to want to, like if you are attached to your team, you're going to defend whatever I say about said team. If I say something about your character, if I say something about you as a person, you're going to defend. Like if you're attached to your ego, you're going to want to defend what I'm saying because you think that, because it shatters the illusion of what you believe in your own mind. You know, so here I am talking about you, but you don't agree with it, so you want to defend it. And you want to stand up. And in some cases, yeah, it's understandable to want to like stand up. But truth be told, the soul just is. And I have to have my own reminders of that. A lot of times it's like remembering that the soul just is. It doesn't matter what people say about you. When you know who you are, it falls on deaf ears. And that's the challenge, you know what I'm saying? Like to practice stoicism in that manner to where you don't allow things to get to you, and keeping in mind that it's either the truth or it's nonsense. But when you are attached to something, when you get triggered by something, there's a part of you that speaks out that never felt heard, so you try to defend. Again, it goes back to wanting to be seen, heard, and loved, or feeling like you're not good enough. And that's a lot of times where we defend because we don't feel like we're good enough. So we feel we have to defend so that we can get external validation for something. So why do men struggle to set aside their ego? It was protection. You know what I'm saying? It's trying to protect yourself from outside forces, outside sources. I mean, essentially it's for love. Let's call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? Everything we're doing is either an act of love or we're asking for it. you know, and it is, and if we, and it's just a way of looking at it. I'm not saying that's the only way of looking at it, but perceive things to be that a person is either offering love or they're asking for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like attention-seeking behavior, asking for love. You know what I'm saying? External validation. That's how that is. If I do something kind for someone, I'm offering love. You know what I mean? If I throw a tantrum, I'm asking for love. You know what I'm saying? If I am, you know, I'm showing anger, you know, and behind anger is fear. So I'm afraid of something. I'm afraid of losing something. I'm afraid of not being good enough. I'm afraid of not being accepted. Whatever it is, I'm asking for love. You know what I mean? Like, if you can see it that way. So look at us men, like I said, for the question itself, like, is what I'm doing, am I offering love or am I asking for it? And in struggling to set aside your ego, if nobody's gonna love me, I gotta do it. Truth be told, I gotta look after myself. Because that's all I got. If you're fortunate enough to have a brotherhood, and I'm fortunate enough to have that, you know what I'm saying, but most, you know, a lot of them have their, you know, they got their own lives going on. So all in all, what you have is yourself. And being able to carry yourself like you have things in control, as much as that what's in your control, that is, not controlling everybody else. And that's an issue right there, trying to, you know, wanting to control everybody else because that's what you're used to, living your life that way. But understanding true love is not about possession, it is about appreciation. And like I said, as men, you know, pride ourselves on being in control, pride ourselves on leading, whatever it is, being the guy, being the top dog, all ego. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's ego when you're on top of the world or you feel like the world's on top of you. And that's from Mark Manson's, you know, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a great read. And so learning to look at it while we struggle to set aside our ego is more so the appearance of confidence. And confidence is sexy. And the confident is, you know, you look in the history of like the study of animals in the wild, you know, the confident one, the one that stands the tallest, the one that tends to have the highest chance with mating, you know what I mean, with girls and stuff like that. So that's just, I don't fault a man for having an ego per se. Well, what I do is when you allow it to get the best of you, and you know, you can push people away with said ego, but it is still that point that it's still, you know, still an attraction. It's all about how you use it. So why do we struggle to set aside our ego? Well, for many reasons, you know, but number one, I would say it goes down to protection. Protection, because nobody else is going to look after you. So you create this here, this alternative personality of somebody that you didn't used to be. You know, you had to become something. You know, I mean, you were fine just the way you are, but in survival mode, you became something that protected you for a little bit. The thing is, you weren't, I don't believe we were supposed to attach ourselves so much to it that we think that it's us. It was more to serve a purpose for survival, you know, so it's temporary. Because, you know, the soul is the soul and it'll come out. You know, there's moments where your soul comes out and it requires no defending. Your ego is going to be defended one way or another. That's just how things go. But we struggle to set aside our ego. I believe that me as a man will struggle to set aside my ego. It's more about protection and so essentially living in fear. That's part of it, you know, as you're living in fear, you know, being honest with yourself. And you either live in fear or you live in love, man. So it's just realizing how tough are you going to be that day? Are you going to live in love or are you going to live in fear? I mean, who knows? But I believe struggling to set aside our egos is simply about protection and not wanting to be hurt.
So what's something hypocritical that you don't like in women that you do yourself? Projecting insecurities, and not even the most recognizable ones. It literally just comes out of nowhere. And I think it's more so when it's someone that you really do care about, and fear of abandonment, fear of losing something, that comes into play when you project said insecurity. And what do you have to fear when nothing belongs to you? But that the wounded inner child has its way of making the stage. So it's like recognizing it and being able to laugh at, again, just laughing at the ego. That's how you kill it. But something that is very hypocritical that I don't like for women to do, that I definitely do, I can hold myself accountable to it, is certainly like projecting insecurity. And insecurity, not something more so of like, it's in the sense of having to protect yourself for so long. So when you do have that moment of lapse of judgment where you turn love into possession versus appreciation, it's just like a nice reminder to get yourself back centered and focus on the purpose versus anything else. But yeah, if there was ever something that was hypocritical about me when it comes to like something I don't like women to do that I do, it's definitely projecting insecurity.
How did you celebrate 40? I celebrated 40. The idea that I have for it was just being with the brotherhood, right? And by that, all men. To have that brotherhood is so vital. And it's restoring. It is healing. It is iron sharpening iron. So to come together, to be able to, for boys to act like boys, yet still becoming men. It is a joy to have that. I'm very, very blessed and fortunate to have the men that were able to make it to celebrate, turning 40. Landmark year, and I don't want to make it a thing, but just recognizing that a lot of people hadn't made it to 40, that we've known from our area and stuff like that, or just in life in general, man. So being very grateful to have the opportunity to do so. But yeah, a lot of laughs, a lot of trying different shit. Like we tried the Oreo Reese's. That was okay. I just think it'd be better in a blizzard. That was my whole thoughts on that. Being able to just sit and talk about life growing up, and the things we used to do, and seeing the growth of us from being those 9-year-old boys to now being 40-year-old men. And it's a blessing. Or seeing people that I met when I first got in the Air Force, and to have them show up for me, you know what I mean, just as much as they did when we were in the Air Force. We were all we had. It was, like I said, it was dope, man. Honestly, it wasn't, I don't care about getting, I don't really value like getting crazy for the birthdays, that stuff, anymore. So just to have that peace, that calm of just talking amongst people that you value, tribal members, you know what I mean? The tribal members and even the younger tribal members, helping them, move up as well and pass on what you know to them. But being able just to, just kick it by the bar, and just talk, play pool, and then hit the range, you know what I'm saying? Firearms and stuff like that. Learning how to learn, obviously getting well acquainted and know how to use a firearm, of course, because that's I believe a requirement for protecting your family and stuff like that. So that was cool to kind of sharpen with that. as well as being able to kick it by the beach. And that was cool too, you know what I'm saying? Just to lounge and, you know, hear the crash of the waves, listen to some dope classics, and had that Charlie sub, you know what I'm saying? Charlie's in Jack's Beach, you know, we hit Charlie's, that's the one that's not too far from the McDonald's, and then we just kicked it by the beach or whatnot. That sandwich didn't look anything like the Philly sub, you know, on the promo that's up there at the screen does not look anything like when you actually get it. But I digress. It's the same thing with like how the Big Macs look all fluffy and shit on the commercial, and when you get it, that shit is a fucking empanada or whatever. But it was a good time. It was a good time being with the fellas, and then of course grilling. That's one of my favorite pastimes. Is, you know, during COVID I taught myself how to grill. And deal with fire, because I was afraid of the fire at first, you know, but after, you know, working with it a little bit, you get comfortable working with the fire. So I was able to play with the fire. So I quite enjoyed it. You know, I got to see one of my men. Excuse me, I didn't even say my boys, but one of my men that I haven't seen since graduation, and just seeing, you know, again, I obviously there's a grown man in front of me, but I'm still seeing all of us as these little kids from Burbage Grant playing outside. You know, we're not fathers or anything, but we are now, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have families and we have kids and things. So like to look at the evolution. It was definitely a healing moment to come together with the family and seeing men be fathers with their kids with them at the house and stuff. So and governing them, you know what I mean? Being able to just chill. Didn't have to be much. Try different drinks like chocolate, the chocolate Crown Royal. It's all right, you know. You mix it with like I think like a Dr. Pepper or something like that. Something with a little sweet to it. It might be okay, but it was a good time. And then of course the Jag game. Now that game was probably about as entertaining as the golf course for the first 3 quarters, but being there tailgating with you know, like my nephews, watching them play football and how we used to do the very same thing, or just sitting and talking with you know, my brothers that I grew up with, both childhood as well as, you know, like my best friend from the Air Force and best friends from the Air Force. We were just able to kick it. You know, that's really all I could ask for. You know what I'm saying? Very grateful for them making the time, because to have that many people actually commit to you know, a mission like that, I was in awe. I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely in awe. That is, them being here was definitely the gift itself. You know, I'm not able to thank those guys enough for that moment. It was true, and it truly was a moment. But yeah, the Jag game, you know, was cool. Just being able to be there, you know. Honestly, it's not about who care who wins or not. I'm a Niner fan, so of course I hope the hometown team will win, you know, living here in Jacksonville. But it was chill. Well, it really was a chill time, and more pool that night, and then just like kicking it with the fellas. So I said I couldn't have asked for a better way of doing this to celebrate 40, to like for that to have everything come together, from the friends that I made when we moved to Virginia after being, you know, moving around so much, and from the Navy life as a Navy brat, getting to Suffolk, moving into Burbage Lake, which is part of Burbage Grant, meeting all those friends from, you know, Castlewood, Scottsville, Glenrose, Burbage Acres, all the neighborhoods that were, you know, that pretty much were in Burbage Grant. So to see them evolve, grow up, become men, make mistakes, learn from them, continue to make mistakes, learn from them, and just be human. You know, it was dope. It was dope to have that, and just to watch them, and, you know, hearing everybody's different testimonies of what they had went through. So very healing. It was a very healing time. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much how that went down. I look forward to all the challenges that are gonna come in the 40s, and just in life in general. Hopefully just learn from the mistakes that go down. But anyway, that's it for this episode. So I'm Romy Mac. Had a great time, but I'm out. Good night, kids.